Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government prides itself on acknowledging the science of climate change and responding. It also prides itself in saying that its decisions are thoughtful and science-based. So let's look at some science. Several studies have shown that climate change is causing an increase in the incidence of vector-borne diseases. A study published in the journal EcoHealth predicted that the geographic range for the principal vector for tick-borne diseases such as Lyme disease would significantly increase in Canada because of climate change. So to the Health Minister, what adjustments has Alberta Health made to improve the monitoring and diagnosis of tick-borne infestations?
Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Certainly, those who have contracted Lyme disease, this is very difficult on them and their families, and we know that there are ticks in Alberta that have been confirmed to have Lyme. That's very troubling, or to have the same components. We want to encourage everyone to take preventative measures and make sure that when you're walking off path, you're wearing long sleeves, long pants, and protecting yourselves, Mr. Speaker. And I'd be happy to hear advice from the honourable member around further monitoring as we move forward.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's on the way. First of all, tell your Chief Officer of Health that the disease exists in Alberta. Given that many Albertans have experienced needless suffering because of delays in diagnosis in Lyme disease, and given that Alberta Health continues to maintain an attitude that it is nearly impossible to contract Lyme disease in Alberta, and given that diagnostic delays caused by this attitude of denial cause both untold expense and needless suffering, to the Minister, why won't you direct Alberta Health to adopt a broader diagnostic criteria needed for the early diagnosis and treatment of Lyme disease?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much for the question. I wonder if the same question was asked by the previous government that was certainly dealing with this issue for many years. Certainly we are continuing to move forward, Mr. Speaker, and I think I was very clear around that there are ticks that we suspect could have Lyme in Alberta. We want people to take precautionary measures to protect themselves, and certainly the diagnosis piece is very complicated. The pieces that are happening south of the border are different than north of the border, and we certainly take leadership from Health Canada as we continue to move forward in finding the best way to diagnose, treat, and remediate.
Second supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, climate change has increased the range, and so given that Alberta Health's attitude of it can't happen here, coupled with an inadequate diagnostic protocol, is causing Albertans suffering from Lyme disease to seek treatment out of province, and given that the exportation of patients to other jurisdictions in order to obtain medical care not available in Alberta is surely not part of the NDP worldview, to the Minister, will you commit today to the development of a comprehensive provincial strategy for the prevention, diagnosis and treatment of Lyme disease?
Stop denying climate change, Minister.
Minister of Health.
I believe in the last question I just talked about the prevention, diagnosis and treatment, Mr. Speaker. Certainly we are going to continue to work with Health Canada to make sure that across Canada we have the very best up-to-date measures to make sure that we're protecting citizens. Once again, I want to remind all Albertans, if you're spending time in a situation where you could be encountering ticks, please take preventative measures. Obviously, an ounce of prevention is worth far more than a pound of cure, and we want to make sure that we are keeping ourselves and each other as healthy as possible. So remember to wear those long sleeves and long pants, Mr. Speaker.